Hey everybody, welcome to the pre-market analysis that we open up to the public every single Wednesday. Thanks for joining us this morning. If you guys are new to watching the stream, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a breakdown on what's going to happen this morning. By the way, this is Spartan speaking, by the way. Once I'm done speaking, Beth's going to come on and give you a breakdown of the macro environment, basically, and in news events that happen over the course of the evening that are coming out this morning. She'll go through any of the bigger picture ETFs, commodities, or names to be looking at today that matter, as well as going through any individual names as well that she sees as fit. After that's done, I'm going to come on. We're going to go through the individual names that I'm looking at today, stocks that are gapping up, gapping down. We'll talk about the news associated with those gap up, gap downs, and we'll also discuss the SPY and the FANG. Once that's done, I'll pass over to South Beach, and he'll check out the analyst calls for the day and the individual names that he's looking at, and then basically we'll be good to go there. So, without further ado, I will pass it over to Beth, and I'll talk to you guys shortly. Beth, if you're ready, it's all yours.
I am indeed, sir. Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my friends. Welcome to those of you who are new members, as well as those of you who are joining us through our live YouTube stream. Lots of things to talk about. You know what I like to do, big picture stuff. We do have, obviously, some economic data coming out this morning. Just so you know, China kicks in PMI. Okay. You know, it's going to be interesting because there's obviously what's going on in the Eurozone. The double dip, right, recession. That's what they're talking about. That's what the concern is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And also don't forget, we have to put the elephant in the room, which is interest rates, right? This is unprecedented in terms of what we're seeing, clearly, because this has never happened before, in terms of the manipulation, putting your thumb on the scale in terms of global economies. How this plays out, it'll be ugly someday, but I can now, continue to plead the case that I don't see any real top in place for years to come, right? Yeah, I mean, you're going to get 5, 10, 15% pullbacks within a cycle, but liquidity, right? See how things happen. We also have to be aware clearly that yesterday the president rolled out the usage of the Defense Act, where basically made Merck start to develop, to produce Pfizer vaccines. This is a win-win for everybody, obviously. Texas and Mississippi, there was another state, I think, as well. Basically, no masks, everybody's open. See how that plays out. I think it's a little bit premature, but to be honest with you, that's out of my wheelhouse right now. ADP, coming on out. Let's see how, this is almost like the EIA, guys, when it comes to oil. It's a walk on the wild side with these guys. You never know. This is what they're expecting. This is what was. We do have the final PMI coming out as well. Clearly, as you can see, that's been robustly bullish. Twins did post in the live chat the discussion that's going on in this regard. To me, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I mean, it's bullish, obviously, but it doesn't matter. I mean, we're in super cycles, right? We're super cycles with commodities. We're in super cycle. It's crazy. But the thing that concerns me the most is supply chain. Do we have enough once we start to reopen? We know that there are glitches in that supply chain. Obviously, we have it in terms of the chips, et cetera, et cetera. I think we're going to get more and more supply chain disruption. See how that plays out. Okay. All right. So here we go. ISM PMI, yada, 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 yada. We have the EIA. Lovely. Don't forget, we do have Bostic is speaking as well. And we do have the beige book. And this is important, guys, because it gives us a look into the different regions for the different Fed regions as to what's going on economically. Okay. Bostic speaking, yada, yada, yada. And then we've got Kaplan. So a lot of Fed heads talking. The question is going to be, number one, how the Fed is going to react to rising interest rates, okay? Number two, how's the market going to react to rising interest rates? Those are the only two important questions right now, guys. Right? Okay. All right. This is inflation. And this goes in the vein. I encourage you to look at it in Barron's. It talks about, well, the cost of goods. We know this is the case, right? Across the board. All industrial metals are cranking it out. You got lumber, you got everything that's screaming higher. Yet, if you exclude out, food and oil prices, it hasn't trickled down yet to the consumer. That's going to happen. There is going to be supply disruption. It's going to happen. These are the speed bumps that the market will have to deal with going forward. Right? Let's take a look here. Eurozone double dip. We talked about a little bit about this. This is out of Reuters. I encourage you as well to read this article for those of you who are looking to expand your economic chops. Right? It's going to be interesting. What we probably will have is what we had before for multiple years, where the US economy just kicked ass, right? And the Euro economy kind of limped along. We know what's going on in the UK. And then now the question is going to be what's going to happen in the Pacific Rim. We'll see. All right, few ingredients. I know I haven't dusted it off in a while. Okay, this is not how tops are made. This thing has been like doing nothing. It's, 35. Okay, a year ago, this is what we're talking about. A year ago, this is what would have happened. Now we got nothing. Let's see what our gal is doing. Kathy, really short list. She did do self-employed, and that's in the Israeli fund as well. It's a passive fund that she manages in Israel, which is fascinating in of itself as well. But this is the ARKG. She's basically selling some of this stuff, pruning. And what is she buying? JD. I love my JD. I'm actually looking at long-term delta trade on JD as a catch-up type trade. Okay. She also likes this Caspi. She keeps buying this, but it's only 0.01%. So how excited can you really get? Right? She's zooming along with Zoom. So she bought more Zoom, and is giving a little bit of a pop overnight. But if you do a deep dive, this is why the funds are not doing very well, mainly because the top holding across the board, Teladoc, ARF, she's all in, down 30%. Roku's down. Baidu's doing well, but off the high, Spotify. So this is what she's got in terms of her ranking, weight ranking. What's going on? Tesla's pulling back. And that's how you get this sort of picture. And as you can see here, it does a deep dive. I love this sort of stuff, guys. Okay, here you go. Here's Teladoc. We're getting really close here, guys. If you look at this chart, right? We're getting really close. I actually may start nibbling on Teladoc because I do believe it's here to stay. But, I'm just looking as a delta trade. And, clearly if we break this, extend this channel right here, I'm out of Dodge. We might probably pull back below it. We'll see how things play out. And here they have U, which is something that Spartan does shout out and members shout out as well. You can see right here. Okay. So this is what's happening. DraftKings, nice news with Dish over this morning, doing its thing. We're in that as a room. Lovely. Thank you very much. Okay. And it's breaking out. Okay, renewable diesel. Okay, so we talk about this. Well, how the hell are these oil companies going to be able to survive? Well, it's all about clean. Right? They're going to find a way to survive based on clean energy. It's that simple. Yeah, you basically don't have to go beyond that. We're starting to see it already. We're going to see mergers and acquisitions, I think, in clean stocks. The oil companies will be buying them because the reality is as long as they have a certain exposure footprint in the clean energy realm sector, okay, the pension companies don't have to sell them. So globally, right, the initiative, zero carbon initiative, right? These global pension companies for countries as well as governments and, regional all the way down to, states, cities, et cetera. who have signed on to this have to sell. Because if an oil stock, and that's the problem with the XOP, the vast majority of the XOP is not clean energy. Well, how does it get to be clean? It gets to be clean or stop the selling is if they acquire somebody or they start doing it themselves. So that would be wind, solar, etc. All right, so let's see how this is going to play out. Okay. I think to be honest with you, I don't have any problem with this. I think that $15 an hour, look, it's up to the corporations if they want to do it. A lot of corporations are doing it anyways. I think that's a non-starter. This whole thing with Elizabeth Warren, please. Okay, next. That has like a 0 chance of getting through. Elizabeth Warren wanting to, like, hey, she's a red meat type of gal too, just like the ex-president, former president was, you know? She's got to do what she's got to do inside transactions. You know what this means. I only look in the highest is obviously with the function of commodities. Notable. This MEOH, it's interesting. So they basically raised the percentage of M&G investment management. Okay. And there was a sell here graph. I'm not familiar with this one. I know some of you probably are. I just keep my head down on when it comes to Bitcoin guys and stuff like that. I'm in Block. I'm in SI. I'm in GBTC, I'm in High Blockchain, and I'm in Ethereum. No, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. I like to keep it clean. Yeah, this is interesting. Some Canadian, Ghani Max. Pretty cool. Let's see what's going on in terms of their smart scores. So what does this mean? Basically, this is, I only like to look at the last day to see who's been naughty and who's been nice. The key is the list has grown. Even with what we had yesterday in terms of the pullback, right? The list has grown. So this is cool. And NOG, I love this mosaic, guys. This is always popping up here. One that I really like, Expedia, right? That makes sense. Yum Brands, I like this as well. Marvell, I will want to be in this, but it's got earnings, so I really can't enter a new trade with the earnings of SAF. So sorry. Dollar General I like as well. You know, this is one of my long-term swings, yada, 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 yada. Let's see what happened yesterday. All right, anything was green was XLB, materials, right? Everything else was red. But let's take a look year to date. Ooh, XLK, 2.1%. XLC, 7.9%. Right, XLY. XLF, the financials, right? Top dog, energy at 29%. Then comes XLF, then comes XLC. So what I want to see, I actually want to see rotation, guys. You know, I keep pounding the table on consumer staples. This is where I want to see some of this go. I don't want to talk about utilities though. Flow. What's flow? You know, for our new members, I do get questions about this. When I post a sweep popped the alpha algo. Okay, this is it. It's a proprietary AI. So as you can see here, yesterday, Las Vegas Sands and GM popped the alpha alert. Just saying. Las Vegas Sands knew. Somebody always knows something, right? So someone was just kind of nibbling around here, $2.7 million. June, 67.50 calls, like someone knew. Funny how that happens. Zoom as well, they're zooming along. This could have been our gal, but I doubt it, but you never know. Kind of fun. All right, option Sono, what I do is I have it basically send me in my mail, but it tweets me as well as I get emails on it. So I only want to look at the big stuff, okay? Ouch, yesterday, right? Apple bearish puts, Apple bullish puts, but CRM bullish puts, Micron bearish calls, DraftKings bearish calls, AMD, Apple, Mosaic, they keep buying this stuff. I want to get into this. I have to look at something. And there you go. That was that little, at the end of the day, Fandango from Las Vegas Sands, and another bullish put on CRM. Let's take a look at Keolan Borden, the Fibonacci Queen. And this is the problem with this SPX, guys, for this month. It's a shit show. Choppy sloppy. Okay, you can see this is all timing cycles coming due. It's crazy, right? Look at them all. There's so many in the month of March. And that's exactly what the sentiment is telling us, the same thing. So be careful. Strongest indices, QQQs in theory, as well as the small caps, Russell. And then the SPY and the Dow are choppy sloppy in the month of March. In theory, that's what it's supposed to look like. And guys, this is what sloppy choppy looks like. You're up one day, you're down one day, you're up one day, you're down one day. All right, NASDAQ composite. Let's see what's going on here within 15 days of high and greater than 3.7% of its issues at the high and the low. Going back to 1986, guys, this is not what we want to see. It's 50-50. I can't do anything with that. So this is a red flag for someone like me who basically uses statistics predominantly with what I do, right? Okay, big red flag. Let's take a look at the conference board. And this is the problem we have as well. And this is why I say, in theory, there's really no high coming anytime soon because the consumer, usies and measies, retail usies and measies, isn't buying into this. Despite record monthly high in stocks, consumers are barely positive. So this is why they're saying you're gonna dance like the roaring 20s and stuff like that, because once the consumer finally says, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, we can get back to our life. In theory, that's going to push this market higher as they start to consume. That's why I say consumer staples and stuff. Anyways, that's the theory behind this, right? Let's look at the S&P. Some of the lowest readings in 30 years, guys. This is the pandemic. This is what it looks like. This is a huge tailwind for this market. And that's why I'm saying, guys, heed kings. You don't want to pick a top in this market. You still want to, at least for me, okay, this is my opinion. This is what I'm doing. Okay, I want to nibble on when it pulls back. I have certain ones that I have core positions on and stuff like that. This is telling me, right, that the consumers aren't expecting anything. They're not expecting the market to go up, guys. This is what it's telling us. What does this mean? At 3-year high, statistically, going back to 1928. 1 year out, S&P, 95 statistical backtest probability that the market will be up 13.7%. 6 months out, 6.5%. You know, and this is the shits and bits we're dealing with, right? In terms of sloppy, choppy March, and then going into, we really don't get until 3 months out, which is kind of like crazy, but it's true. May. And maybe that's when the consumer starts to say, finally. S&P at 3-year high with most optimistic consumers, 1928 to 1921. 2021. Bullish, 1 year out. Sloppy, choppy, next few months. Just saying. And here you can see here, this is the different chunks. Price analyst, stock bond ratio. So this is what they're using, guys, in terms of a lot of their work. Dumb money, excessive optimism, pessimism, yada, yada, yada. Risk on, risk off indicator. Look at this. After the risk on, risk off for 80 straight days, what does this mean going back to 2000? Bullish. But sloppy choppy. All right, let's take a peek here. Fund flows from yesterday. We don't have last month's fund flows yet. Not a lot, guys. This is pretty light. This was the XLF and the diamonds. And then on the other side, you can see this is very light GLD, XLK. That's like nothing happened yesterday in terms of real volume. But here we are in terms of optimism, all the different money flows, et cetera, coming out of real estate, going into REITs, coming out of bio, going into clean energy, basic materials, coming out of utilities into energy, coming out of the 30-year into the 5-year. Countries, as they rank, China is low on the totem pole, guys. This is why I want you to keep an eye on. This is why we're talking about China as well. We're going to go speed dating through this very fast. Okay, here we go. Heat map, bullish. Here we go. VIX, bullish. Here we go. US 10-year, bearish. Be careful with this, guys. This is at that. I wanted to actually sideways Scatala, but I wanted to pull back. Okay, back here. It's not. Be aware of this. This could basically be a tipping point. I don't know what the market's going to do. US 2-year, 10-year. All right, let's take a peek here. I know you guys say, what? NASDAQ US 10-year. going back 2000. What does this chart tell you? Rates going higher. S&P 10-year. What does this tell you? Rates going higher. Dow 10-year. Rates going higher. And here's the Russell. This is actually not as bad looking, guys, but rates are going higher. Okay, DAX. Triple top. Let's see if you can pop it. Nikkei. Looking fine. Monthly. EFA. Trying mightily to pop the top. 76.76. Until this happens, guys, sit on your hands. Shanghai, double top. See what happens with this. Cyrus Consolidated, still bullish. FXI, this actually came in quite a bit, guys, and I was a little bit surprised about it. But it is holding this breakout level. It really got rebuffed mightily. I still have some hedges on for my FXI. I am starting to nibble, though, based off of this, where we're sitting right here on the 20. This is weekly. Chick. This is the communication, fine, but it's at the upper end of the quadrant. Be careful. K-Web, still holding this extension, bullish. Baidu, still, I think this is going to be an inside month, guys, for Baidu. Fine, Spartan shouting that out intraday. PDD, pulled back greater than I thought it would have, but it's still holding up fine, as you can see. The chart is fine. Bizon, I love Bizon. This is a catch-up trade for me. I will be adding to after earnings to my long-term position on that. Bobalicious, I'll have Spartan take care of that one. There's better trades is what I'm saying, right? Yen, keep an eye on this. This is something that I like to get in. This is the 3-time leverage long ETF for the Chinese market. Pulled back. This obviously is a function of the FXI, the large caps, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, ideally, I want it to actually get down here before I start buying. It's a commodity for me. Let's take a look at FANG before my time is up. Barely hanging in there, guys. It's hanging in, but barely. Barely. Weekly. You can see it on the weekly. Okay. So you can see here. 67.15. Bitcoin, it's doing fine. It's consolidated. This whole thing about, like I say, this whole thing about Yellen, yada, 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 whatever. It's smoke and mirrors, right? And nail, that's not what I want to talk about. That's what the other one. Okay, my time is up, guys. Welcome once again for those of you who are joining us, both in our live stream, as well as new members. Spartan will go over the very important details for you once the stream is shut off, so have no fear about that. Okay, and it's time to pass it on. Are you ready, sir?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, let's have some fun.
Alrighty, guys, what's going on? If you guys are new to chat, I'm not going to post the Discord link in the Zoom chat until we close down the YouTube stream, so just be patient for that. But if you guys have already come in from last night, make sure to go to a couple different areas. Make sure to check out the disclaimer as well as the new to chat information. Scroll up to the top and read from the top down. Just an FYI. Now let's take a look at what we got going on today, guys. Pre-market tickers on watch. A couple different things. Zoom, Future, Riot, KMPH, UWMC, Ovid. Markets was gapping up. Basically gave back. Well, it still is, but giving back a lot of the move right now already. Zoom, gapping up in sympathy with the market and on that arc buy. Future gapping up in sympathy with Bitcoin. Riot back gapping up in sympathy with Bitcoin. KMPH. So these guys got their FDA approval for their at-stars as a treatment for ADHD. Stocks gapping up on that. I actually still have a little bit of that left. UWMC gapping up in continuation in sympathy with RKT. So our 10 calls are nicely in the money on that. Ovid, Takeda Securities global rights for Ovid Therapeutics to develop a commercialized, so I can't even say the word, for treatment of children and adults with Dravet syndrome. Sorry. Stocks gapping up on that. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. Let's take a look at them. First two, Zoom and Future. So Zoom, Future. Let's see what's going on here. FYI, guys, if Zoom starts to bounce this morning, we'll just get out of those puts. But I'm thinking it may actually roll over more. Pretty ugly looking bounce there. Didn't really do much. Alrighty. Let's see what we got going on today. 370. Okay. I think that's probably good. So we got our levels from yesterday. Let's take a look at this thing intraday here. Obviously, you can see that it wants to pull and test the short-term uptrend. That's what it wants to do, in my opinion. Pivot to the downside today is going to be 375.84. If this level is able to be reclaimed, we got room back to 399.90 to 417.27. Unable to hold, look for pullback to 362 to the 352.22 on the downside. Overall on Zoom, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today, looking for a retest of the pivot. If that breaks, we see continuation lower. So we'll see what happens there. You know, it could bounce, but still looking heavy for now. Pivot should give us our direction that we're looking for. So that is Zoom. Let's take a look at Futuro. It's a little bit of a bounce on that Bitcoin move. $164.76 pivot to the upside today. This level is able to hold. We got room for continuation to 169.78. If that level breaks, we can see 174.58 tested on the upside. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 160.51 to the 155.53 spot on the downside. Overall, on Futuro, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side if we can get back above this pivot point this morning. So we're going to need to reclaim that level, hold it for a continuation push higher. It is pulling back below it right now. We'll see what happens on the open. Still think the daily chart looks fine. But of course, we'll see how it, basically opens up and how it reacts. Let the pivot guide you. That's Zoom. That's Futuro. Let's take a look at the next two. Next two, Riot and KMPH. $53.06, guys. Pivot to the upside today. This level was able to hold. He got room towards 56.88. That level breaks. We can see 61.47 tested. Unable to hold. Look for a pullback towards 49.93 to 46.23 on the upside. Overall, going to be leaning on the bullish side of Riot today. Probably looking for a little bit of a pullback this morning. Hold of the support, then a continuation higher. It is right at that range breakout area on the daily to the upside. So if you can break through that 56.88, we should get a continuation push higher. Chart's not bad, holding back above short-term EMA support. In the pre-market here, we'll see if it's able to get that continuation push we're looking for. So that's Riot. Let's take a look at KMPH. Can't get levels before the split. $17.98 pivot to the upside today on KMPH. Sell was able to be reclaimed. We got room towards 2039 to 2357. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 1461 to 1239 on the downside. Overall on KMPH, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a grind higher back into the pivot point. We'll see if it's able to reclaim. And if it is, holy smokes, market just came in big time here, guys. If it is able to reclaim, then we can see a further continuation push higher. So we'll see what happens there. So that's right. That is KMPH. Look at this. Watch the VXX 1490 level gets reclaimed here, guys. Well, this will be a sustainable sell-off. If it's unable to do so, we'll probably see a bounce. Keep an eye on it. Big level here on the VXX. We'll talk about this in a second after I do the next two, but just wanted to bring it up because it is moving right now. UWMC and OBID. Let's take a look at these two guys. Unable to hold. We look for a pullback on UWMC to 1025 to 941 on the downside. Overall on UWMC, going to be leaning more on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher. If we're able to hold the pivot, we should be able to get a little bit of a continued squeeze on the upside. So we'll see what happens there. Let's take a look at OVID. So we got a decent little gap up on this name to the upside. Into that gap area. I think we filled it almost. Yeah, pretty much. What is going on? Why isn't it placing here? There you go. $479. Pivot to the upside today on Ovid. This level is able to hold. We got room for continuation towards 578 to 691. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 399 to 327 on the downside. Going to be leaning on the bearish side of Ovid today, looking for a pop and then topping for the stock to come in. So I'll be looking for a pop topping out the gate. That is UWMC. That is Ovid. Let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG. So might as well look at the SPY and the VXX together here. So that pullback was from a ADP employment change. Looks like they had 117,000, but then they revised it back to 174 to 195. So probably get a bounce. Anyways, let's take a look at the SPY here. Either way. Let's look at it on the daily. So daily, we're back below EMA support. We're below this downtrend, of course, which I'm actually going to quickly reline up because it's not looking that completely accurate. There we go. And we're stuck in this little downtrend on the daily here. All right, pivot to the downside today, guys. It's going to be 387.32. Essentially where that EMA support is on the daily. And pivot is on the weekly to the downside. This level is unable to hold. Room towards 385.76 to 384.74. That level breaks. We can see 383.42. Able to reclaim. Look for a pushback to 389.03. Then into the 390.89 level on the upside. Overall in the market, going to be leaning on the bearish side today. Market feels heavy. Looks heavy. Thinking we're going to get further continuation to the downside, especially out the gate this morning, and then we'll see. We'll see if we can get a bounce later on, but definitely looking and feeling heavy here. So that's the SPY. Let's take a look at the VXX as well. So the pivot point on the VXX to the upside is going to be that 1493 is the exact level. If you see that level be reclaimed, you will probably see the VXX push back up towards 1560 area. That's what we'll have room to, I guess. It's all about confirmation, aka holding above that 1493 level. So we'll see what happens there. Unable to hold, obviously VXX will come in, market will be able to bounce. I always watch the VXX in conjunction with the SPY because this gives me very good inclination whether or not we're going to see confirmation of a breakdown of the market. So it kind of tells you whether or not the move's real, depending upon if you get confirmation on the VXX. So just something to consider. I like to use it. Works well for me. Worth checking out. Let's take a look at Apple. $126.45, guys. Pivot to the downside today on Apple. The sell was unable to hold. We got room for continuation lower into the 123.37. That level breaks. 120.23 will be tested. Able to be reclaimed. Look for a push back towards 131 on the upside. Overall on Apple, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today, looking for a continuation lower if we're not able to reclaim that pivot and hold, which it's looking like. We are below it, and we're looking heavy already. So that's Apple. Let's take a look at Amazon here. Amazon daily chart. Let's see. Certainly looks heavy. Still, look. Well, you can see what it did, right? It came up after breaking the uptrend, came back up, retested it, confirmed the rejection, or confirm the break of, I should say, the uptrend on the daily, which means we probably will get a bigger leg down today. Pivot to the downside will be the 30.97 level. Levels unable to hold towards 30.70 to 30.48. That level breaks. We can see 30.1891 tested on the downside. Able to hold the pivot. Look for a push back to 31.37 to 31.69 on the upside. Overall on Amazon, going to be leaning on the bearish side today, looking for a continuation lower. All right, let's take a look at Netflix. $548.69 pivot, unable to hold towards 542.68 to 537.78. Able to hold, look for a pushback towards 553.08 to 559.48 on the upside. Overall on Netflix, going to be leading on the bearish neutral side today, looking for a continuation lower. Let's take a screenshot of this. And let's move on to Facebook. $257.79 on Facebook, guys. Pivot. Unable to hold towards 249.38. Able to hold 267.07 will be tested on the upside. Overall, going to be leading on the bearish neutral side today on Facebook, looking for a pivot break, continuation lower. Looks like it's going to pull into the uptrend retest, which will be around probably 256. And then if that level cracks, then I think we should see a bigger move to the downside. Just because obviously the daily uptrend's broken. So Confirmation's key, of course, but looking heavy. We'll see what happens. Again, using the pivot to give me direction. No bias. Google. Let's take a look at this. 2054.58 pivot, able to hold towards 2087 to 2106. Unable to hold 2010 to 1990 will be tested. Actually going to be leaning on more on the bullish neutral side today on Google. Looking for a retest the pivot, then support to kick in and it to push off of that level. It's pretty clear that, Google's had some relative strength on the daily charts and a lot of staying power. So I think you need to consider that when looking at it. All right, so that's that. That's a SPY, that's a FANG. Those are the individual names that we're looking at, guys. Let's take a look at some of the ETFs real quick because we've got a little bit of time here. Major levels on the XLK to consider. So you got the 50 MA, 131.61. If that level is unable to hold, you will see continuation lower to around the 130.28. And then the next major level on the XLK is the 128.66 support. XLK definitely something to be watching in the short term here, because obviously if that breaks, that means all the tech names are going to be breaking down, which will help pull the market to the downside, just because obviously tech's a huge weighting in the S&P. So definitely worth considering that. Let's take a look at, actually want to quickly look at Microsoft because I think that is important to understand where it's at. I'm just going to quickly save these charts, by the way. I totally forgot to. $232.79. Key pivot area up. That level breaks 230.67, which is the 50 MA on the daily. And then 227.98. We'll have to keep an eye on Microsoft. It actually is holding up quite well within this range. It's not, super bearish until it breaks the bottom of the range. It's trading off the top of the range right now. It could potentially trade off to the bottom, but again, 228 holds. Then obviously it's probably going to be okay. Well, so, we'll take a look at what happens there. I know I'm probably going to get asked about RKT, so I might as well do some levels on it this morning. Do a couple Fibonacci extensions that we had yesterday. And I'll do some intraday stuff. There you go. I'll get rid of that level. We'll use this one here, intraday, and we'll use that. So if you guys are looking for levels on RKT, here you go. I'd use 38.25 as the pivot intraday. Downside support 35.11, 30.42. Then obviously last day's low 26.95. And then upside resistance last day's high 43, 47.50, 50.95. So if you want to use that, go ahead, screenshot it, whatever. Definitely we'll keep an eye on that. Like in the sympathy plays today. We'll see if they get a little bit more continuation or not. But there you go. Real quick, just again, because we got a little bit more time. I didn't realize how fast I went through everything this morning. Let's take a quick look at BA. So still got that flag intraday, or sorry, on the daily, a little bit extended to the upside. 223.64 would be a key level of, well, a key pivot level, I should say. Do like the chart still on the daily, but it probably needs to pull back slightly. 221s, 221.50 area, and then look for a continuation push higher. 223.64 key pivot, 227.46, 229.80 resistance above that. And then once it breaks that range, then obviously you're probably going to trade up to this head and shoulders, 235s and then 244s. We'll have to watch the opening names today to see if there's any money rotating into them. Of course, that's going to be the biggest key, is watching that money rotation. Market continues to sell off. That should be money coming out of tech. We'll just see where, if it goes into anything else, may not. You may just stay cash. May see a little bit of a bounce in the dollar because of that, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now. All right. So that's the SPY the thing, the individual names that we're looking at today, guys. Well, I pass over to Selpeach. I'll be in the background typing up the pre-market action plan, which I will show you guys on the YouTube stream after. I'll just show you guys exactly what I wrote up so you can get a good sense of, or you can see what the levels were, as well as we'll show you the option side as well to show you what our ideas are this morning. Otherwise, that's it. I'm going to go ahead, pass over to Selpeach, guys. He'll come on, give you a breakdown of the macro environment, analyst calls for the day that he's looking at, if any, and individual names, and then we'll go from there. Selpeach, if you're ready, it's all yours.
Hey guys, happy Wednesday. Okay, let's see what we got today, all right? Let's look at the bond market. You saw that employment number come out and what happened to the market. So the 10-year is up 1.46, up 0.05, okay? Let's look over in London. That one is really moving. It's 0.77 and that's up 0.08. So that's a giant move over there, okay? Germany, same situation, not quite as much, but they still have a negative bond, okay, at minus 0.31, okay? France, don't care. Japan, see what Japan's doing. They're at 0.11. Rates are still low, okay, but people are really nervous about what rates are going to do. I haven't looked at the economic numbers, I would say, since in about a year, I would say, okay? And now you really have to pay attention to any number that comes out that gives you a whiff of, takes the temperature of inflation. So that's really important, okay? Powell's trying to keep a lid on rates while employment ticks up, and it's kind of like walking on a tightrope, and that's what he's doing. And it's never easy doing that, but that's what he's doing. So you got to keep an eye on those numbers. They're really important, and the market, the rotation that I'll talk about in a minute, is really dependent on how those numbers play out. There was a guy on CNBC yesterday from Guggenheim, Scott Minard was his name, and he's no slouch. Okay, he's been around a really long time, and he's a smart guy and all that other stuff. And he was saying that he thinks rates go to negative. So, when someone comes out with an outlier opinion, it makes sense to listen to the guy. And he had a pretty cogent argument. And if you get a chance, you can watch it, I think, on YouTube. But you should watch the interview. But basically, he's saying with the $1.9 trillion stimulus, that a good percentage of people who get the money don't need it, and they put it in the bank, and the bank in turn has to buy bonds, and that'll drive rates down. And we haven't broken the trend, which has been for 15 years of rates going lower, and he thinks they're going lower. So that was an interesting take, very bullish for the market, in my opinion, especially growth stocks. Okay. Okay, so let's see what else we got going on today. All right, well, let's look at commodities. Oil is up 1%. Gold is down 1%. Silver down 2%. And copper is down 2% at 0.08. So that's a pretty big move in copper, but it's still, near the highs. Okay. So that's something we have to watch. On the currency front, dollar is strong against North American currencies, mixed against Asian, down again against the Chinese currency, 146. That's near the lows. The low was 643. And the euro really doesn't move ever. Crypto world, that volatility is just incredible. I mean, this thing pretty much moves, what, 5% a day? So today it's up 6%. And we had our first research report on Coinbase, which is going public, which I thought was interesting. And let's look at the foreign markets. Okay. They've given back almost all their gains. Okay. When I came in this morning, Germany was up 123 points. It's up 5. Britain was up 62 points. It's now up 16. So most of the gains that we saw in Europe are gone, as we have seen our gains evaporate, and now we're running into negative territory, right? Okay, so that's that. So numbers we have to focus on. There's a cheat sheet in the back of Barron's, or you can probably get it on the internet, all the dates to watch for the month. You could pick the ones that are inflation, take the temperature of inflation. Friday's number is huge. So my plan on Friday is to be as flat. Hey, someone just put it on here. This is really worth, guys, if you get a chance, watch this. This is exactly it, okay? Watch the interview. I'm not saying I agree with them, don't, disagree with them. I just think, it's good to know each case, on every topic, so you can kind of, knowledge is king. And the more you know, the more money you'll make. That's the way it just works out. So anyway, Friday's number is the big number of the month. And I'm going to be, speculative positions are going to be whittled down to bare bones. No news out of China. Oil market, been pretty strong. We were looking for, I think OPEC meets today, and they're talking about 1.2 million barrel increase in production. So we'll see what that happens with that. So Eddie, this group, I'll talk about it in a minute, but that group it's fits and starts, sometimes once, twice, 3 times a year, they have a move. That's oil. The virus I've been talking about for what? A month and a half, that as far as the stock market's concerned, which is forward looking by 6 months, that pandemic is over and the rotation is adjusting accordingly. And yesterday, Mr. Market, let's see what we had. We had the same old thing, okay? This new rotation, right? Which is selling high PE names, stocks that don't have, a whole lot of earnings, that are trading at lofty valuations. That's the stuff they're hitting, okay? So you have high PE tech, semis, these are all on the negative side. FANG stocks were weak, China was weak, solar and EV, machinery and retail. All the stuff that, was really good when things were bad, the lockdown and stuff, all act like crap, okay? And, let's talk about the SPAC market for a moment, because I got in this market really, really early on, and I looked at it as a way to kind of steal second with 1 foot on first. Basically, these deals were coming out at $10, opening at 10.20. You could grab as much as you wanted, and you had 25 cents risk. And if they did a deal and it was great, it worked out great, and you could double your money very easily. I did it a bunch of times in space and all kinds of names, DraftKings, just a ton of them. Okay. What was the other one that I had? QS. I mean, what I make 6, 7 times my money, something like that. So there was a ton of opportunities to make money. All right. So it was a small market. There were very few SPACs. Right now, the SPAC market is $700 billion. $700 billion. Okay. That is a insane number. And if you look at the websites of what's coming out, there's deals every single day. Okay. more and more and more deals. Well, another guy told you yesterday is doing 2 deals at 1.2 billion. There's just a truckload of deals. All right. And what they're doing is just beating the hell out of the current names that are there. Okay. So if you go on FinViz, for argument's sake, and you look at the new low list, okay, there's 8 pages of new lows, 20 names on a page. So you have 160 names. Out of the 160 names that are on the new low list, okay, I think something like, I'm counting, I would say 150 of them, 150 of the 160 names are SPAC names. Okay. So what was happening was, people were saying, oh, SPACs, and they were taking, the stocks that came at 10 and bidding them up to 15, 16, 17, whatever it is. And the weight of all these deals is just beating the hell out of prices. Okay. And I've been saying now for about a week, you can't buy any SPAC that's trading above 10 and change. Okay. Because they're just going to whittle away the prices. All right. So I, got out of the only ones that I kept that trades above is the Pershing Square one. And I kept IPOD and IPOF, although I reduced. All the other ones, I reduced. Anything that was trading above 11, I got out of. I whittled down to next to nothing. And, that's the way I'm playing it. Okay. And maybe their day in the sun is over. And maybe it's not, but I'll tell you this much: you have a $10 put effectively, because you could always put the SPAC back to them if you don't like the deal. So I'm going back to this, steal second with 1 foot on first routine. If I could buy them at 10, 10, 20, 10, 15, and I kind of like the management, I'll take a shot. But there's no way I'm paying more than that. Okay. And I have it. If someone asked on BTWN, let me be honest, I have 500 shares. That's it. Okay, why? Because it's 1340 and it could easily be 1040, and I'm not in the mood to lose. This is a tough, the easy money, as Twin said earlier, is gone. Okay, so you have to play the rotation. That's what's working now. All right. And so what is the rotation? What is the rotation doing? Well, it's anything with a high PE is getting smashed, right? All the high tech, high PE tech names that have been, crowd favorites has been a source of funds. The FANG stocks have become a source of funds. The semis have become a source of funds. EV, solar have become sources of funds. Will that change? Sure. Markets rotate. All right. And what are they buying? They're buying stuff that'll do well when the economy opens up. They're buying cruise lines. They're buying airlines. They're buying auto companies. They're buying cyclical companies. And you have to be in the rotation. Okay. Now, maybe if that labor number that comes out on Friday is, not good, right? Meaning employment isn't picking up. Maybe you'll get a rotation into high PE tech names again. That's why I suggest being pretty flat on Friday, because you just don't know what the number's going to be. But Kay is bringing up DraftKings. DraftKings is a winner when the economy opens up. The casino names are winners. You have to play this rotation. It is essential. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to get smashed. Okay. So that's what we're looking at. That's the situation we have, and you got to accept it. Don't try to be the guy that picks bottoms or shorts tops or all that other stuff. Play the momentum game, and you have a shot. You play the other game, it's a quick trip to the poorhouse, in my opinion. Okay, so that's my narrative on the market. I think that rotation continues to play out, with the exception of Friday morning, which is a question mark, where you need to be really, 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 really small. And anything you take needs to be not contingent on an inflation number. Okay, that's that. Looking at research today, the call of the day on the short side was this OC, which Goldman went from a buy to a sell. They see relative underperformance. If I remember correctly, it was because they use oil in making their stuff, And the price of oil in their commodities department, they say it's going to be higher. And so their margins are going to be a little soft, higher input costs, right? So that's what they're saying. So that's an interesting call, right? What else? A couple of guys downgraded Rocket. That's no surprise. When a stock becomes overvalued, you know, these guys who are trading these names like Rocket and GameStop and whatnot, you know, these stocks are shorted for a reason. Now, Rocket is a lot better company than GameStop. I mean, much better company. That being said, at 40, whatever it was, 42 bucks, you know, it's almost like the musical chairs game. You got to hope that you're not holding it when the music stops, because as you can see here, it's down to fin. Okay, so that's the research on, Illman. Initiate with a sell, 235 target, stocks 441 at Lehman, Barclays, I'm sorry. And I don't know what to make of that, you know. Okay, he doesn't like the stock. Illumina has been a really great company for a really long time, and I'm not getting involved in that. Although it has come down quite a bit, but I'm not playing it. Okay, you guys can do it, but that target price is, you know, 235 versus 441. There's plenty of room to make money. On the long side, what do we have? So Morgan Stanley likes Eaton, a cyclical name like I'm talking about. Let's see, Dine Equity, that's Raymond James likes that one. They also like Iridium. The calls that stand up, Roku, equal to outperform over at KeyBank, and they have a 518 target. KeyBank's research really is not very good, so I wouldn't pay attention to it, but I want you to know if the stock moves, that's the reason why, in all likelihood. Barclays likes Danaher, which fits into this reopening motif, okay? 260 target, great company, great company. In fact, I think the GE CEO came from Danaher, if I'm not mistaken. And he's done a great job since he's been there. Okay, so Citibank initiated a lot of these high PE names that they like. I'm not going to play this group, but it's good to know, okay? The names they like, I mean, and the targets were very high. CTXS, if you heard me correctly, that's a little bit of a tongue teaser, CTXS, okay? Okay, they have a 206 target, stocks 136, DocU, they like that one, 282 versus 233. Hubs, they like that one. Microsoft, they have a 292 target, stocks 233. They like NICE, they like Now, 665 versus 549. VMware, they like that one, 178 versus 139. There will be an extraordinary transaction in VMware with Dell, probably in September or October, whenever that deadline disappears, that they can do something. But you can look it up, it's public knowledge. KSS, they like that one. They take the target 67. Remember, you have those guys that bought 9% and trying to get 9 board seats, etc. They like Micron. They raised their target Abercrombie to 33. They like this One Main, ONEM, which had some negative news scare last week, and they're saying it, you know, overdone. Deckers, Cowan likes that one. HTBX, Cantor has a 22 target, stock 7 and change. So that stock, I think, was up $1 and change this morning, right? I think. Yeah, $1. Okay, so that's really the research target. Baird likes that one. Out of the things I'm seeing, I think the OC call is interesting. Otherwise, I just want to play the rotation. Okay. By the GMs of the world, by the airlines of the world, like the cruise lines, don't like the, you know, the names that I mentioned, the FANGs and the high PE tech names, semiconductors, etc. I think until that changes. Also, with the volatility increasing, guys, you can reduce your size and still make the same amount of money. But with the higher volatility, you got to use your stops. Okay. Do analysts consider interest rates when doing price targets? Absolutely. they do this dividend discount model, most of these guys, and then they kind of plug the price in that way. So in the dividend discount model, interest rates are front and center. So yes, Dagu, they do look at rates. Okay. Colon, can you check? I don't know what that means. Colon, can you check? Wow. What the hell is this thing? I don't even know what this thing is. Cone. I know a bunch of cones, but I don't know any stock name cone. Publicly owned investment manager. I don't know what to make of it, guy. Sorry. That's some move though, huh? I'm thinking it's hard to make that kind of money without an extraordinary number in there, like they made money in the venture capital world or something like that. But I didn't look at it, so I have to look at it, and it takes time. Okay, so that's the research. Syndicate, you have what? A couple of deals today, right? You have 2 new issues. You have this Oscar. Most of you guys in New York know what Oscar is. It's like a digital HMO that they rolled out, I don't know, 5 years ago or something like that. I think Jared Kushner's brothers, one of the founders, they priced it at 39. It should be pretty hot. 36, 38 was the target. That's one IPO, and then there's half it, 4, 6, 8 secondaries. The one that's most interesting. Remember we traded Morph last week, so they did theirs 3.5 million at 70. You know, I find when a biotech does a secondary and you know where the money's going, it's not a negative event. It's generally a positive event, but we'll see. Okay, I wouldn't buy it unless it clears the price of the deal, and the price of the deal was 70 bucks. Okay, that's how I trade them. You know, I use that line. I've talked to you guys about it a bunch of times. SSYS is another one that might be on the radar. So that's the syndicate, okay? And tomorrow we have, the rest of the week, we have currently 2 IPOs, 6 more secondaries, and you can bet your last nickel that the secondary market will grow by the end of the week. There'll be more than what's slated. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so that's my thinking of the day. You know, that's the rotation I'm playing, and unless things change, that's the way I'm staying, okay? And that's it for me. I'm out of time. Spartan, it's all yours, buddy.
Can you give me 30 seconds, Self Beach?
Sure. See, in the earnings place, was anything important? Oh, tonight we have, after the close, we got what? Nords tonight. We have VRM, Splunk and Snow, and Marvell, and American Eagle, and Okta. So there are a bunch of names with reporting tonight. And tomorrow we have Kroger. Tomorrow's really nothing. Then the main event is tonight. Okay. On the earnings front, I'm surprised at the Wendy's number. I think it should have been better. This may cause the restaurant group to come in a little bit. And by and large, the retailers had crappy numbers. They missed JWN, Ross Stores, Urban, Dollar Tree. I think they're going to give these guys a pass because it was you know, during the pandemic. Can I speak to Intel on their lawsuit? Supposedly they lost what, a $2 billion patent infringement lawsuit? I'm sure they're going to, I'm not sure, but I would think that they're going to ask for a retrial. And so they're going to kick the can down the road. And, you know, you have new guys on the board. The complexion of this company is changing to the better. So I wouldn't get all wrapped up in that, okay, so they did say they're appealing. So I wouldn't get too wrapped up into the 2 billion, okay, really. Focus more on the board, changes coming in, and what these guys who are new to the board are gonna do to change the company and make them more competitive. I think you should focus on that and not the $2 billion lawsuit. I did trade that lawsuit yesterday, made a little bit of money. Okay, but for me, it's just a trade. And that's that. I think the main thing, if you're holding stuff that's got high PE and, you know, stuff like that, just be cautious on that stuff, you know, like SPACs and stuff like that. All right.
I'm good to go, South Beach.
Okay, it's all yours.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. What's going on, guys? Morning. I'm going to quickly just run through everything here. If you guys want, you can just pause the YouTube stream, read the notes there on what the ideas are for today on these levels. All the charts are posted as always. A couple things that we're looking at today: Zoom, Future, Riot, KMPH, UWMC, Ovid. Zoom gapping up in sympathy with the market on an arc buy. Future gapping up in sympathy with Bitcoin. Riot gapping up in sympathy with Bitcoin. KMPH shares are trading higher after the company announced the FDA approved its treatment for ADHD. UWMC gapping up in continuation with RKT. And then Ovid, these guys to develop a commercialized treatment for children and adults with Dravet syndrome. Stocks gapping up on that. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. Zoom and Future. Zoom, 375.84 pivot. This level is unable to hold, room towards 362.02 to 352.22. Able to hold, look for a pullback to, or push towards 399.90 to 417.27 on the upside. Overall on Zoom, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today, looking for a continuation lower if that pivot's unable to hold. Future, pivot, 164.76. Able to be reclaimed, room towards 169.78 to 174.58. Unable to hold, 160.51 to 155.53. Will be tested on the downside. Overall on Future, going to be leaning on the bullish side if we can get back above that pivot point on the upside. And we can look for a bounce there, or a continuation push, I should say. Let's take a look at Riot. Let's take a look at KMPH. Riot, 53.06 pivot. Levels able to hold, room towards 56.88 to 50 or 61.47. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 49.92 to 46.23. Overall on Riot, going to be leaning on the bullish side today, looking for a pull basing to kick in and then it to push higher. $17.98 pivot, levels able to hold, room towards 20.39 to 23.57. Unable to hold, 14.61 to 12.39 on the downside will be tested. Overall on KMPH, going to be leaning on the bullish side today, looking for a continuation push higher. Let's take a look at UWMC. Let's take a look at Ovid. $11.20. Pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold towards 11.72 to 12.33. Above that, let's give a quick little new level here. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back further. Oh, we could actually get some decent room. Let's call it 13.15. Get above the 12.33 level, room towards 13.15. Unable to hold the pivot, look for a pullback towards 10.25 to 9.41 on the downside. Overall on the UWMC, leaning bullish, looking for continuation higher. Ovid, pivot to the upside today. 479. This level is able to hold, towards 578 to 691. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 399 to 327 on the downside. Overall on Ovid, going to be leaning on the bullish. Sorry, going to be leaning on the bearish side today, looking for pop topping, take the stock short. Let's take a look at SPY. SPY pivot to the downside today. 387.32. Pivot to the downside today. This level is unable to hold. Room lower into the 385.76 support. Breaks, we see the 384.74 to the 383.42 level tested. Pivot holds, room higher into the 389.03 resistance. Breaks, we see the 390.89 level tested. Being bearish, neutral in the market today. Basically looking for a continuation lower if we cannot reclaim the pivot, which is looking like the case so far this morning. That could change. We'll see what happens. All right, let's take a look at Apple. Pivot to the downside today is going to be the 126.45 level, unable to hold, room towards 123.37 to 120.23, able to hold, look for a pushback towards 131 on the upside. Overall on Apple, going to be leading bearish neutral, looking for a continuation lower. Let's take a look at Amazon. Pivot to the downside today is going to be the 30.97.29 level, unable to hold, room towards 30.70.74 to 30.48, able to hold, look for pushback to 31.37 to 31.69 on the upside. Overall on Amazon, going to be leading on the bearish side today, looking for continuation lower. Let's take a look at Netflix. Pivot to the downside today, 548, unable to hold. We got room lower into the 542.63 to 537.78. Able to hold, look for a pushback to 553 to 559.48 on the upside. Overall on Netflix, going to be leading on the bearish neutral side as well today. Facebook, pivot to the downside, going to be the 257.79, unable to hold, towards 249.38, able to hold 267.07 on the upside. Overall on Facebook, leading bearish neutral today as well. Let's take a look at Google. Pivots today is going to be the 2054.98 level, I believe it is, something like that. 2054.58, sorry. Levels able to hold towards 2087 to 2106, unable to hold 2010 to 1990 on the downside will be tested. Overall on Google, going to be leading on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a pull into the pivot and that level to hold. And that is that. Alrighty, so that's why that's the thing. Those individual names we're looking at real quick. VXX 1493, guys, is your key pivot point to keep an eye on today. Watch that for the market direction. Alrighty, guys. If you guys have, came into the stream today, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next Wednesday.